Between 1935 and 1938, a dark and terrifying chapter unfolded in the history of Cleveland, Ohio. This period, marked by fear and uncertainty, saw the city gripped by a series of gruesome and inexplicable murders that would come to be known as the Cleveland Torso Murders. The city, which was already struggling with the economic hardships of the Great Depression, found itself plunged into a state of panic and dread as the bodies began to appear. Cleveland was gripped by terror as a series of gruesome murders unfolded. The victims, often found in the desolate and impoverished area known as Kingsbury Run, were discovered in various states of dismemberment. The Mad Butcher, as the unknown killer came to be chillingly known, left a trail of mutilated and headless bodies that cast a dark and ominous cloud over the city. The brutality and savagery of the murders were unlike anything the city had ever seen, and the residents were left in a state of shock and fear. The Mad Butcher, as he was chillingly known, left a trail of dismembered bodies along the desolate Kingsbury Run. Victims were often unidentified, their torsos, mutilated and headless, casting a dark cloud over the city. The bodies were often found in advanced states of decomposition, making identification difficult and adding to the mystery and horror of the case. The police were baffled by the sheer brutality of the murders and the apparent lack of motive or pattern. Their torsos, mutilated and headless, casting a dark cloud over the city. The victims, who were often transient individuals or those living on the fringes of society, were difficult to identify, and this only added to the fear and uncertainty that gripped the city. The police, led by the legendary Eliot Ness, were under immense pressure to solve the case and bring the killer to justice. Despite their best efforts, the Mad Butcher seemed to always be one step ahead, eluding capture and leaving a trail of death and destruction in his wake. Detectives, including the legendary Eliot Ness, were baffled. Ness, who was famous for his role in bringing down Al Capone, was brought in to lead the investigation and bring his expertise to bear on the case. Despite his best efforts and the resources at his disposal, the Mad Butcher remained elusive. The investigation was hampered by the lack of forensic technology and the difficulty in identifying the victims. The police were left to rely on old-fashioned detective work and the hope that the killer would make a mistake. Despite their best efforts, the butcher's identity remains a mystery to this day. The case, which remains one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in American history, has spawned numerous theories and speculation. Some believe that the killer was a deranged medical professional with a macabre fascination with death and dismemberment. Others believe that the killer was a sadistic drifter who preyed on the vulnerable and marginalized members of society. Despite the passage of time, the case continues to fascinate and horrify those who study it. Was it a deranged medical professional or a sadistic drifter? Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive. The lack of concrete evidence and the difficulty in identifying the victims have made it nearly impossible to determine the true identity of the Mad Butcher. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and articles, each offering their own theories and interpretations of the evidence. Despite the best efforts of countless investigators and researchers, the identity of the Mad Butcher remains a mystery. Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive. The case has become a part of the folklore of Cleveland, a dark and terrifying chapter in the city's history that continues to haunt the collective memory of its residents. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run is a name that still sends shivers down the spine, a reminder of the brutality and savagery that once stalked the streets of Cleveland. The case remains a testament to the dark and twisted nature of humanity, a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk in the shadows. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, a name that still sends shivers down the spine. The case, which remains unsolved to this day, continues to captivate and horrify those who study it. The brutality and savagery of the murders, combined with the mystery and intrigue surrounding the identity of the killer, have made the case a subject of endless fascination and speculation. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run is a name that will forever be associated with fear and terror, a dark and terrifying chapter in the history of Cleveland, a name that still sends shivers down the spine. The residents of Cleveland who lived through the terror and uncertainty of the Mad Butcher's reign of terror were left with a deep and lasting sense of fear and unease. The case, which remains unsolved to this day, continues to haunt the collective memory of the city. Could this cold case ever be solved? The passage of time has not diminished the fascination and intrigue surrounding the case. Despite the best efforts of countless investigators and researchers, the identity of the Mad Butcher remains a mystery. The question of whether the case will ever be solved remains unanswered, a tantalizing mystery that continues to captivate and horrify those who study it. Or will the Butcher's dark legacy forever haunt Cleveland? The case, which remains one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in American history, has become a part of the folklore of Cleveland. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run is a name that will forever be associated with fear and terror, a dark and terrifying chapter in the history of the city. The case remains a testament to the dark and twisted nature of humanity, a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk in the shadows. The legacy of the Mad Butcher continues to haunt the city, a dark and terrifying reminder of the brutality and savagery that once stalked the streets of Cleveland. As the gruesome murders continued, a chilling pattern emerged, painting a harrowing picture of the Mad Butcher's reign of terror. Each victim met a horrifying end, headless, dismembered, their bodies mutilated beyond recognition. The first known victim was discovered in September 1935. The body was found at the base of Jackass Hill, where East 49th Street dead-ended into Kingsbury Run. The victim's head was never found, and the body had been drained of blood, suggesting the killer had a macabre knowledge of anatomy. The second victim, found in January 1936, was equally as horrifying. The body was discovered in a half-frozen state along the shores of Lake Erie. Like the first, this victim was headless and dismembered, with signs of precise and calculated cuts. The killer's modus operandi became apparent: the consistent dismemberment, the precision of the cuts, and the terrifying detail that some victims were decapitated while still alive. As the investigation deepened, the profiles of the victims began to take shape. Most were transients, the homeless, or individuals living on the margins of society. The third victim, identified as Edward Andraschi, was found in a similar state of mutilation. His body, discovered in September 1935, was decapitated and emasculated, with the head found buried nearby. The fourth victim, known only as the Tattooed Man, was found in June 1936. His body was identified through the distinctive tattoos, but his head was never recovered. The difficulty in identifying the victims, many of whom were transient, posed an immense challenge for investigators. Each discovery added to the growing sense of fear and paranoia in Cleveland. The city was gripped by an overwhelming dread, with rumors spreading like wildfire about the identity of the killer and his motives. People began to lock their doors and avoid the desolate areas of Kingsbury Run, hoping to avoid becoming the next victim of the Mad Butcher. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, led by the determined Eliot Ness, the Mad Butcher remained elusive. The fear and paranoia that swept through Cleveland during this dark period were palpable, leaving the city in a state of perpetual anxiety. The Mad Butcher's dark legacy continues to haunt Cleveland, a chilling reminder of the evil that once stalked its streets. As Cleveland teetered on the edge of panic, a beacon of hope emerged. Eliot Ness, famed for bringing down Al Capone, was appointed Cleveland's public safety director. With a reputation as an unyielding lawman, Ness was determined to end the reign of the Mad Butcher. Ness, known for his relentless pursuit of justice, faced a daunting challenge. The lack of forensic technology of the 1930s meant that investigators had to rely on rudimentary methods. The transient nature of the victims further complicated matters, as many had no fixed addresses or identifiable records. The killer's meticulous methods and ability to elude capture only added to the frustration. Driven by his unyielding resolve, Ness orchestrated a bold and controversial move: the raid on Kingsbury Run. Believing the killer might be hiding among the transient population, Ness ordered the shantytowns to be burned down in a desperate attempt to flush out the Mad Butcher. The decision was met with mixed reactions. While some saw it as a necessary step, others criticized it as a heavy-handed approach that displaced countless individuals already living on the margins of society. The raid, however, did little to bring Ness closer to capturing the elusive killer. Amid the fog of fear and uncertainty, several suspects emerged. Among them, Dr. Francis E. Sweeney stood out. A former doctor with a history of mental illness, Sweeney was considered a prime suspect. His medical knowledge matched the precision of the dismemberments, and his erratic behavior raised red flags. Despite these suspicions, concrete evidence was elusive, and Sweeney was never formally charged. The hunt for the Mad Butcher ultimately ended in frustration and heartbreak. Ness's reputation took a hit, and the case remained unsolved, leaving a dark and chilling legacy in its wake. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run remains a haunting enigma, a ghostly figure lurking in the annals of Cleveland's history. Despite the relentless efforts of Eliot Ness and his team, the Cleveland Torso murders remain officially unsolved to this day. The chilling enigma of the Mad Butcher continues to haunt the annals of true crime history, sparking numerous theories and speculations about the identity of the killer. One of the most compelling theories revolves around Dr. Francis E. Sweeney. A former doctor with a history of mental instability, Sweeney's medical knowledge aligned disturbingly well with the precision of the dismemberments. His erratic behavior and troubled past raised many red flags. Some believe that Eliot Ness himself was convinced of Sweeney's guilt, but was unable to prosecute him due to insufficient evidence and Sweeney's influential connections. This theory gains traction from the fact that Sweeney voluntarily committed himself to a mental institution shortly after the murder ceased, further fueling suspicions. However, the Dr. Sweeney theory is not the only one. Some suggest that the Mad Butcher was never caught and may have continued his spree of terror beyond the official timeline of the murders. Others propose that the killings were the work of multiple individuals, operating either in tandem or separately, but mimicking each other's gruesome methods. Criminal psychologists have also weighed in on the case, offering insights into the possible psyche of the killer. The need to dismember his victims suggests a deep-seated compulsion, possibly driven by a desire for control or an expression of profound rage. The selection of transient individuals as victims points to a calculated effort to avoid detection, preying on those who were less likely to be missed. The Cleveland Torso murders left an indelible mark on the city of Cleveland. The gruesome nature of the crime sent shockwaves through the community, instilling a deep-seated fear that lingered long after the killings ceased. The Mad Butcher's reign of terror turned Kingsbury Run into a place of nightmares, forever altering the perception of safety in the city. Even today, the memory of those dark days casts a long shadow over Cleveland's history. For Eliot Ness, the hunt for the Mad Butcher was both a professional and personal crusade. As the man who famously brought down Al Capone, Ness was a symbol of justice and determination. Yet, his inability to capture the Torso killer remains a blemish on his otherwise stellar legacy. The frustration of coming so close, only to be thwarted by a lack of concrete evidence and political obstacles, haunted Ness for the rest of his life. This case serves as a somber reminder that even the most legendary lawmen have their unsolved mysteries. The Cleveland Torso murders continue to captivate the minds of true crime enthusiasts and historians alike. The sheer brutality and mystery surrounding the case ensure its place as one of America's most haunting, unsolved crimes. Theories and speculations abound, but the true identity of the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run remains an enigma. It's this enduring mystery that keeps the case alive in public consciousness, a puzzle that begs to be solved. As we reflect on the nature of the unknown, we are reminded that some mysteries may never be fully resolved. The Cleveland Torso murders stand as a chilling testament to the darkness that can lurk within the human soul. Who was the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, and why did he stop? Perhaps we will never know, but the haunting question remains, echoing through the annals of true crime history. Thank you for joining us as we delved into the chilling case of the Cleveland Torso murders. We hope you found this exploration as fascinating and haunting as we did. If you did, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts and theories about the identity of the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run? Do you think any of the suspects were the real culprit, or is the true killer still a mystery? Share your insights and speculations in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring more intriguing content to our community. In our upcoming videos, we'll continue to uncover other unsolved mysteries and delve into the minds of history's most notorious criminals. From the Zodiac Killer to Jack the Ripper, we'll explore the darkest corners of true crime, leaving no stone unturned. Stay tuned for more tales from the shadows, and as always, thanks for watching. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the mystery alive.